We have major breaking news into CNN. Three sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back a few months.
That's right. So this is an assessment that actually is out from the Defense Intelligence Agency. That is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it was based on a battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. CENTCOM after the strikes, according to one of the sources. Let's go to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand, who has this exclusive new reporting.
Your silence is deafening. Why didn't you go to New York and go on the Sam Cedar broadcast? Is it because you hate Jews? That's crazy. That's crazy.
This is to that question that has been asked about how much damage has been done. This is a real question. It's also a political question that has been to something that Donald Trump.
Remember, what did this accomplish? What did we accomplish here? We spent a fuck ton of healthcare units, okay? Every military action should be every metric of looking at military action should be judged by how many healthcares did it cost, okay? Even from the American perspective, how many healthcare units did we waste on this? What were the military objectives here? Targeting the Iranian enriched uranium, targeting the Iranian nuclear facilities, and obviously the major objective here is to do regime change swiftly and efficiently, create popular mobilization, take advantage of any sort of sectarian infighting that takes place in Iran. None of those happened. Not a single one of these military objectives were accomplished. And in the process, hundreds of Iranians were killed. Almost 30 plus Israelis were killed in the tit for tat in the back and forth between Iran and Israel. Israel's air defenses looked not so great, you know? And that is with the entire Western world backing Israel. So what? What happened? Nothing. What could have happened, on the other hand, is Trump telling Israel not to do this, stopping Israel from doing this, and actually engaging in some kind of negotiation and lowering sanctions, lowering the nuclear sanctions with Iran, and have a much more reasonable, much more diplomatic Iranian leadership get success out of this negotiations process and go back to the JCPOA. Go back to the commitments that they had to the initial JCPOA agreement that was set up under Barack Obama. That would have actually made Trump look good. But he relied too much on the Israeli side driving the fucking process. He gave the steering wheel to Israel, and Israel is an insane, belligerent country. They're psychopathic. And here we are. Now you have now you have an Iran that is angry and understandably resentful, that is slated to leave the International Atomic Energy Agency, who might actually work towards nuclear proliferation down the line in an act of determining sovereignty, in an act of creating some semblance of protection for themselves. None of this had to happen.
Trump has been sort of dealing with here recently. What
a more
are you learning,
unified
Natasha?
Iranian population as well.
Yeah, look, Brianna, this is the first assessment that we are getting that the U.S. intelligence community has found about the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these.
This is crazy, bro. MOPs were created specifically for Fordow. There have been around 20, probably more to be honest, MOPs that have ever been created, and the U.S. dropped 18 of them on Fordow on Saturday, and it was a tactical failure according to American intelligence. Maybe, dude, let me say something. Let me say something to you. Enshittification, okay? Have you heard of it? Have you heard of it? I think capitalism is so self-defeating that maybe it fucking even ruins the American military.
These 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago.
Lockheed is quiet quitting, dude. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, quiet quitting. Boeing is already quiet quit. We know that already. Too much DEI. Too much corner cutting, cost cutting.
And the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted..."
Dude, this is so lame. Oh my God, this is so soy. This is so unimaginably soy. Dude. Incredible soy right. Incredible things are happening on the soy right. You're hurting the feelings of our big, beautiful pilots. I can't wait for them to even mention that the pilots are women. It's gonna happen. Trust me. Okay? How dare you hurt the feelings of our big, beautiful pilots by leaking the intelligence community's assessment that their strikes was actually not successful. How dare you? I do worry that this kind of quote-unquote leak might be coming from the hardliners that want, like, the more hawkish elements within the State Department that want to continue bombing Iran. I don't know. That are just like super invested in Israel's ambitions here. That is something that I worry about a little bit. Taking advantage of Trump's insecurities to be like, oh, you didn't do it? Well, I'll show you. I'll do it right this time. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
A perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their target.
Like, I don't know if we're having a serious conversation here for a brief moment. Those brave, beautiful warfighter pilots, okay, are war criminals. What they engaged in was a war crime, okay? I know that this is a scary thing to broach for a lot of Americans, but like, it doesn't matter if it's an American pilot or an Israeli one doing this. When you fly into a foreign nation's airspace with the express purpose of blowing up their nuclear facilities, what you are doing is a war crime. What those pilots were doing, even the female one, okay? Girl boss war crimes. That's what it is. I like that we don't even think about that. I like that that is not even a matter, that is not even something that's in consideration here. Like, no one is even entertaining the notion that, like, this is actually, one, an act of war, and two, a war crime. I truly feel crazy about, didn't the UN guy say it was legal though? Wait, what do you mean? What? Anyone that sanctions a tactical first strike, that anyone that sanctions a tactical first strike against nuclear facilities is insane, okay? There is no world in which this is appropriate or allowed. And it probably wasn't a UN guy, it probably was a fucking NATO guy. Yeah, it was Rutte. He wasn't the UN guy. He's the NATO General Secretary. And of course he said that. That's NATO. That's not the United Nations. Here, I'll give you an example from the not so distant past. Russia was engaging in a battle near a Ukrainian nuclear power plant. Do you remember how terrified everyone was that Russia was doing this? The dynamic doesn't change when America does it, because the actual war crime here is hitting a nuclear power plant. And it did get hit. Yeah, Zaporizhia got hit. Like numerous nuclear power plants were under fire in the process. That doesn't change when it's like the receiving, on the receiving end you have not Ukrainians but like Iranians, you know what I mean? That's like not allowed or appropriate.
It's total obliteration. Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community, about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities